Today we're benchmarking the new Devil May Cry 5 with 10 very popular budget graphics cards, and these are seriously my favorite videos to make. I hope you guys are enjoying these too. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. Today we're going to be benchmarking the brand new Devil May Cry 5 with 10 budget graphics cards and with a new testing rig that allows us to fit those longer graphics cards like the RX 570 and the GTX 960. And if you're new here and you want to see more benchmarking or PC building videos, then hit that subscribe button down below and also that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode. But before we get into it, let me quickly pay some bills. Today's video is brought to you guys by our friends over at NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the highest rated VPNs or virtual private networks that allow you to browse the internet privately, securely, and with no history logs whatsoever. It's super easy to use. All you have to do is select which server from around the world you want to connect to, and then you're done. Enjoy clutch features like double VPN protection for extra security, an internet kill switch for the very rare time the VPN disconnects, super fast peer-to-peer downloads, and unlimited bandwidth for just $3 a month. I actually signed up for a year of NordVPN at full retail price way before they hooked me up with a referral link and a discount code for you guys, so I obviously recommend them as my go-to VPN service. Head on over to nordvpn.com/Zach or click the first link in the description to learn more. So for today's video, I'm throwing 10 budget graphics cards at you guys, and this is a little bit different of a lineup than normal. For those of you that don't care about how excited I am about our new testing rig and you don't care about my method for benchmarking this game, then feel free to skip to this time frame in the video. You're welcome. If not, then starting with the AMD cards, today we have the HD 7850, RX 460, RX 570, and the RX 480. For our NVIDIA cards, I have the GTX 750 Ti, GTX 960, GTX 970, GT 1030, GTX 1050 Ti, and finally the GTX 1060. Now that I have a different testing rig that can actually fit these longer GPUs, I'm trying to nail down the best possible combination of 10 graphics cards for these videos, so please drop a comment down below if you want to see a different card added to this mix or if you want to see one of these cards removed. Speaking of that testing platform, by the way, this rig is rocking a Ryzen 5 2600X clocked at 4.2 GHz, 16 GB of RAM clocked at 3000 MHz, and Devil May Cry 5 is installed on a budget 120 GB inland SSD. Now one thing to note here is that the 2600X doesn't really pair super well with these budget graphics cards, but once again, I really want to hear from you guys, so I haven't purchased a new one yet. What AM4 based CPU do you guys want to see for these videos? I'm personally thinking something like a 2200G or a 2400G because they're super budget and then I can test the integrated graphics as well. But if you guys want to see something even more realistic like a Ryzen 3 1200, then please just let me know. And finally, with all that out of the way, let me quickly explain my benchmarking method for this video. As you can see here, this is one of the earlier levels that I thought would make a good run because it's consistent and it has a lot of textures popping around. The footage that you're about to see for each card is just so the video isn't boring, so just know that I actually got the results of the benchmarks from this single level alone. For those of you that are interested in seeing all of the cards with the exact same settings side by side, I'll get to the settings you should use for each individual card in just a second. Here's the chart comparison for that. For this comparison, I benchmarked every card with 1080p and low settings with TAA, and there isn't anything too surprising here. Every card scaled pretty accurately, and all of them except the GT 1030 could at least achieve 50 FPS in 1080p, which is definitely a good sign. And before getting into each individual benchmark, I just want to make it clear that the settings that you're about to see for each of these graphics cards are the settings that I would personally game at, and obviously you can tweak these to your liking. The first card up was our legendary HD 7850. Make sure you check out that recent dedicated video, by the way, because this card can still kick it in 2019, and here in 1080p and low settings I averaged a solid 54 frames per second. The next AMD card was the RX 460, and again in 1080p and low settings, which is what our comparison chart settings were, I got an average of 67 FPS. Following that was the new RX 570 that I just picked up, which only cost me $140, but it included Devil May Cry in the Division 2, absolute steal by the way, and here in 1440p and ultra settings I got an average of 72 frames per second. And to wrap up our AMD cards for the day, the RX 480 was up next, and here with the exact same settings, 1440p and ultra, this card did slightly better with the 76 frames per second average. Moving on to our NVIDIA cards, the first one up was the GTX 750 Ti, and in 1080p and low settings I got an average of 51. Gotta love seeing this super budget card that you can pick up for like $40 used, still kicking it in 1080p. Next up was the GTX 960, which I haven't featured featured in a benchmarking video for a few months now, and here in 1080p in high settings I got a respectable 75 FPS average. Following that was the GTX 970, also a card that I haven't been able to feature until I got this new benchmarking build, and here in 1440p in Ultra I got an FPS average of 74, pretty much neck and neck with the RX 570 and 480. Next up was our super budget GT 1030. This is the 2GB GDDR5 version, by the way, and for this one I actually wanted to drop the resolution down to 900p, and here I got my personal minimum FPS average of 50. The GTX 1050 Ti was up next. Sorry I still don't have a regular GTX 1050, by the way. Don't forget to let me know if you want to see that. And here in 1080p in Ultra settings I got an average FPS of 71. And finally the 3GB GTX 1060 was my last card for this benchmarking run, and in 1440p in Ultra settings I averaged 71 frames per second. Well, there you have it. That wraps up my Devil May Cry 5 benchmarking video with some budget graphics cards. Once again, please drop a comment down below and let me know what cards and CPU you want to see for these videos. After that, feel free to head on over to one of these two videos if you haven't seen them yet, and definitely hit that subscribe button because later next week I have an interesting Q&A video coming. You don't want to miss that video.